Okay, let's begin. Hi, everybody. Thank you to everyone who's here joining in on our last lecture. So today we'll be talking about a blockchain-powered future. So hopefully you enjoy it. So again, I'm Janice. I'm currently the head of education at Blockchain at Berkeley and also one of the webinar leads. And I'm joined by three other beautiful webinar leads. Do you guys want to give an introduction quickly? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll start it off. Yeah, I thought Eric was gonna go, but hey guys, you guys saw me for lecture 4 and lecture 8. I'm Sayan, one of the webinar leads. And it's great to be back for this final lecture.
Erica, you want to go ahead, fill in the gap?
Absolutely. I'm Erica. I'm another of your webinar lead. So excited, so happy to be with this group of people. So happy to be presenting this content. Andrew, take it away.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Andrew. You guys saw me at the first lecture and also lecture 5, the game theory one. Those are both really fun, some of my favorites. And, I had to bring it back for the last one. So I'm happy that y'all are here. And yeah, let's kick it off.
All right, let's begin. So today we'll be talking about first a blockchain powered future. So kind of a scenario where everything is blockchain. And then two, the problems with blockchain and why it's not really implemented everywhere yet. And thirdly, how you can get involved in the space since you're basically an expert now. Okay, so let's begin. So as we enter our first lecture, let's dive into an extreme of blockchain. We're going to be entering a blockchain utopia. Please note that this is imaginative venture for fun, so don't take it too seriously, and it's probably not going to happen. So let's dive in. So in the morning, you leave your Airbnb or the apartment you spent the night at. And as you leave, sensors detect that you're leaving. And Slocket's smart contract confirms you didn't break anything and basically pays you back your security deposit to your wallet. So you go to Pete's and you order coffee on your smartphone. And actually, the coffee has an entire supply chain history, including a fair trade certification, soil analysis from the farm the coffee beans are from, etc. And many products include this option as well as other micro donations embedded into the price that offset carbon and water or contribute to charitable causes. So you can see where the donations go because they go through a public cryptocurrency. Okay, so you call your car yours, but it's actually not really yours. It's plugged into autonomous ad hoc swarm of vehicles, that is available for anyone to use. And accidents are rare, but when they do happen, the insurance agency analyzes video footage through machine learning training bots and automatically gives the victim in the accident the appropriate payment. So except it's not actually an insurance agency, it's just a smart contract that basically pulls together the funds of many owners and charges people the exact expected value of car insurance, basically taking no profit. And the near exact probability of accidents is basically is known because every accident that has ever happened is recorded on the blockchain, right? Okay, so you head off to your company headquarters to work, except your work isn't really work again. It's all voluntary because the blockchain ensures a universal basic income for everyone. And you're an engineer and researcher by trade, primarily because you want to help, push the boundaries of human knowledge and blockchain. So your company isn't really a company either. It's a decentralized autonomous organization, DAO, as we've written, consisting of individuals from around the world who just sign up, receive compensation, and pay raises based off the quantity and quality of their research findings as determined by a worldwide Oracle network, which is what we learned last week, right? And who can exit their contract at any time. So your company itself receives revenue over time as measured by the net benefit to society your research brings. Okay, so for a few functions of society left that that might still require government, a centralized government, it's run by a democratic feudatory. So this is where the markets decide where policies should be implemented. So a proposal is given to approve or reject, and there are two prediction markets that are created, each containing one asset. So the one market corresponding to acceptance and the other to rejection. So this basically completely removes the possibility of corrupt politicians who know little to nothing about the fields they write legislations for. But rather than entirely blockchain run future right now, it's more likely that we'll have a partial integration. And this is happening right now. For example, let's specifically talk about the healthcare system. Anytime you go to the doctor, you'll be able to see, your summary signed off by the doctor, sent to you for a confirmation signature before it goes to the insurance company. You'll have access to your electronic health records, and it's easily accessed by you when visiting other public hospitals. So it's more transparent for you and only visible to you unless given authentication and authorization, which is made possible by cryptography, right? Another example that is currently being worked on in the US is in the healthcare industry is putting the entire pharmaceutical supply chain onto the blockchain. And you can actually read about this more as US FDA plans to have this implemented by 2023, which is quite soon, right? So they plan to basically tackle the problem of counterfeit of medicine. So now we've gone through basically a scenario of a blockchain future, but now let's look at some of the problems with blockchain that doesn't allow for this to happen. So Stan, Andrew, take it away.
Thank you. Yeah. This seems like an interesting future, to say the least. I would think it's a nice one, but yeah, maybe that's very different from what we're used to. And to some people, maybe that doesn't sound like the best. But nevertheless, there do stand some problems between now and that vision that we just pitched you. Some problems with blockchain technology and how it's used that really prevent it from seeing widespread adoption. And, the lines sort of blur between these categories, but we've broken it down into more or less three realms of problems with blockchain. And that is technical shortcomings of the technology itself, regulatory concerns from governments and financial institutions with how, as a society, we could use this and how it could coexist with the government. And there's also some usability issues. It's a very technical, tool to just have to use to do something as simple as transferring money. You have to, at this point in time, really know sort of the underlying protocol to use it well. And that's preventing people, casual consumers, from using cryptocurrencies and whatnot. So there are other usability issues in that realm that we'll dive into. So to kick things off, this is one of the first arguments you'll hear ever if you get into a conversation about crypto is so cool, but why isn't it actually a thing yet? Transaction throughput, and specifically that one metric, transactions per second. People are going to bring up the TPS count immediately, and they love quoting the Visa metric too. That Visa is strapped to handle 65,000 transactions per second at max, which is great. It's proven to be sufficient to run pretty much the world's financial transactions. But at the moment, Bitcoin is at pretty much and I'm pretty sure this is with all the most recent updates to the Bitcoin protocol as well, still at a theoretical bound, I think, of 27 transactions per second at max. And that's at base layer. That's not taking into account the Lightning Network or any L2 solutions like that. But still, it does show a stark contrast between the sorts of throughput that cryptocurrency, or at least the Bitcoin network, can handle, and the payments network that we're used to, which is Visa. And so if we want the entire world to be using cryptocurrencies, obviously we need to be able to handle an entire world's worth of financial throughput. And this sort of harkens to the scalability trilemma that we've talked about. The fact of the matter is, what we want to use cryptocurrency for is very sensitive stuff. It's money. We're recoding money, and so obviously it has to be very secure. And decentralization is a big motivational factor in all the cryptocurrencies that we see coming out, because a lot of the issues with the current financial system are the plethora of centralized parties, all the various interests at play that prevent the consumer from getting the best deal they can. So those are two very poignant issues picked out by the community, but the scalability trilemma sort of states that you're going to have to like you can't have all three. And that's what we saw on the last slide really manifesting itself. Like we've been building towards security and decentralization very much, and we're sacrificing on scalability. And no matter what solution we arrive at, there's going to have to be compromises made. So there's always going to be a bit of an issue in that. And another technical problem is one that we've talked about already, and it's the Oracle problem. So if we want to really get creative with how we can use blockchain technology and build all sorts of decentralized applications on it, something that we'll probably want to be able to do is to use external data. If you come from like a technical field, you might be used to using APIs in applications you build. It's really nice to be able to not have to write all the code on your own and be able to procure data from other places. And some applications, this is like necessary. You can't create all the data on chain and have it be verified on chain. But if you're using off-chain data and it's important for your application that this data is accurate and it's verified, how can you actually make that promise? And you really can't, right? Like you do have to rely on oracles that'll sort of bear the responsibility of procuring this data and also like proving or verifying it in whatever way. But at the end of the day, you're still like relying your trust into this oracle. If this oracle decides to provide you with faulty data and claim that it is true, like it's technically within someone's power to create a valid proof for invalid data, and you just wouldn't know that the data was invalid. So you still put yourself at risk of a faulty oracle. And this is if that was maybe getting a little hairy, this example might help bring it together. So in the beginning of the lecture, we were talking about like, this morning you left your house and you grabbed some Pete's coffee, and you knew that it was ethically sourced because the entire supply chain was recorded on the blockchain. You could tell that at each step of the journey, like, I know that this coffee there was nothing shady going on. But if you're to actually envision what this sort of solution might look like, you realize that there is a human interaction component in there somewhere. Like at some point, at some step in the journey, if you want to like put a claim on the blockchain that says, look, this coffee was ethically sourced, you need someone to vouch for that. Like at the end of the day, you need someone to at least like scan packages of coffee to show that inventory was coming in, or someone to say like, look, like my factory was approved by so-and-so with this verified certificate that it is like up to like healthy working standards and whatnot. Like point is, you are delegating trust to some other creator of a proof, some oracle, to say, yes, like this coffee was actually made ethically. And since that's like off chain outside of the protocol, if that person who like scans coffee decides to make a little money on the side and also include coffee from unethical places in the shipment, but not scan that in, you'd never know. And you're subjecting yourself to that risk. And so sort of stepping away from the more technical issues and getting more so into the regulatory ones, the biggest areas of regulation, families of laws that are concerned with cryptocurrencies are those of know your customer, or KYC, and anti-money laundering laws. That's AML. And you'll probably, if you've ever seen KYC and AML like on Google or something, if you were, if these lectures got you interested and you were reading up on blockchain, it's not uncommon to see these, and I totally didn't know what they meant when I first encountered them. But yeah, it's these families of laws that typically in the context of finance, KYC and AML basically requires financial institutions to collect certain personal information from their users so that the governments can ensure that these financial institutions aren't accidentally or deliberately brokering any sort of illicit financial activity. So it's like actually like an explicit demand of the government that they can de-anonymize participants in financial transactions, because they need to know like, oh, okay, like so-and-so is moving like tons of cash in like even amounts like every week. I would like to know who this is because this looks like drug activity. Right now, the governments can do that, but a lot of crypto protocols, it's like goes against the core ideology. Like we want anonymity. We don't want the governments to be able to censor any of our financial transactions. And obviously, this is like butting heads directly with the government. And so this is just sort of one example from the financial space, but I think you can pick up a theme there of, of butting heads with the government, of wanting to stay anonymous in no matter what you do. And it really brings up a lot of other regulatory concerns that mostly stem in one way or another from the crypto community's affinity for pseudonymity and decentralization, right? When everyone's pseudonymous and there's not one central party that's in control of something, it's very difficult, should something go wrong, should some criminal activity be facilitated, it's very difficult to find someone to blame. Because previously you could say like, oh, Wells Fargo, this bank, like you allowed a criminal to like move funds through your system. What's good with that? But now it's like, oh, this decentralized protocol allowed a peer-to-peer trade that included like, the transfer of drugs, for example. Who's to blame there? The developers? Like they didn't know that was going to happen. So yeah, there's another example of sort of regulatory issues. This one less so like government regulation, like the government wants to know what's going on in the system, and more so from an economic perspective. So in June of 2019, Facebook wanted to Facebook announced that they were going to launch this cryptocurrency called Libra, a stablecoin that they intended to be used globally as like a primary means of payment. Like their whole vision was that they would be serving like unbanked populations because even in third world countries, people have Facebook accounts. Facebook is like well connected, at least has data on like the network situation. So Facebook is pretty well positioned to be a global payments network. And when they said that, okay, we're going to provide a stable coin that is dollar pegged that you can use securely no matter where you are, even if your local banks are fraught with corruption, a lot of people in the global economy took a look at this and said, oh, do we really want that to happen? There was like outspoken concern from the European Central Bank, from the ministers of finance of France and Germany, and the Group of Seven Nations, which is this like, I might be misexplaining it. You should search it up. It's like an economic think tank / regulatory body. They formed in response to this a task force that was solely like focused on investigating crypto regulation and the best way to do this to make sure that like Facebook Libra doesn't step outside of its bounds. Because the concern was that Facebook Libra would be so good a use case, basically, that in so many countries and desolate communities, it would basically replace the native currencies, that these countries started thinking, well, if Facebook's currency starts like becoming more dominant than our own currency in our own country, then we'd be subjecting ourselves to Facebook's monetary policy. And so there was like all sorts of resistance. And in the end, Facebook had to re-architect the whole system to break Libra up into essentially groups of stable coins, and a country's central bank could have its fiat currency represented as a stable coin and have its central bank be the sole issuer of that stable coin in the Libra network, so that instead of having just like one Libra dollar, Libra could support central bank issued, minted, controlled like currencies and just be the payment network for that. And so sort of leave the monetary policy in the country's hands. But you see the sorts of concessions that Facebook had to make. And this was over concern from like the state of the global economy, which maybe there is some truth to that. Switching over to like all cryptocurrencies immediately might not be a really good idea. But yeah, so that gives you an idea, I think, of some of the regulatory issues we're facing. Now I'll pass it off to Sam to talk about the usability issues.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Stepping away from these issues regarding regulation just for a sec, this is maybe an issue that you all have come across. Maybe you downloaded an app to mess around with some crypto, and it wasn't as refined or it wasn't as clean looking as the apps you were used to. And this is a problem found across the entire blockchain industry, this complicated user interface or user experience that many users come across. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, end customers, people who are using cryptocurrency eventually, maybe on the daily, end users don't want to have to think about private keys and miners and transaction fees and all of this gunk that just comes along when you're using Bitcoin, right? End users just want to tap a button and be able to receive Bitcoin and send Bitcoin or whatever the cryptocurrency is. The problem is the blockchain space is very young, and this isn't an issue with Bitcoin or any. This isn't an inherent issue with any blockchain itself. It's just that this is a very young space, and not a lot of the effort and the progress has been put into the actual functionality, and maybe not into making it very refined for end users. And I think an apt analogy is, let's think about the computers that we use today, right? Like back in the day. Well, first of all, if you look at a computer's architecture, at the very low level, it's like a bunch of transistors, and then there's like CPUs and GPUs and SSDs and fans and all these things coming together just so you can watch some YouTube videos, right? And at the beginning, a couple decades ago, it was very difficult to use computers. You had to basically program your own programs. You had to like manually boot it up and type in a terminal. There was no GUI, and it was very difficult. But as time progressed, as decades passed, as more and more people got involved with improving the user experience and improving the usability, we now have this sleek aluminum laptop, very light, very portable, very usable piece of technology that even toddlers, even 4-year-olds can use to just log in and start like watching Fortnite videos on YouTube. So basically the idea is, with time, these issues with UI and UX are solved. And the thing is, with blockchain, it's like I said, so early on that a lot of these problems still exist. So on the left here, I have a picture of Bitcoin Core's wallet. So this is when you go to the Bitcoin Core GitHub and clone it, and then get your full node running. This is a GUI that you can see, and it's running on Linux OS, and it's not very streamlined, as you can see. But this problem with UI UX is already getting solved. So on the right hand side here, we have this is the PayPal app, and maybe you heard the news a couple of weeks ago. PayPal recently allowed its users to send Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency, and so you can see in this very already clean app, we have Bitcoin on here, and you can start sending and transacting with Bitcoin. And there's also some other examples: Coinbase, Binance. They all have very clean web interfaces. And so this problem is already getting solved, but this is definitely a barrier to adoption to think about. Next slide. Thank you. Okay. So then another barrier to adoption is the preceding reputation. So maybe some of you all felt this, but when you hear someone say Bitcoin, a lot of people will immediately think like, oh, scam or hack or pyramid scheme or something along the lines of that. And that's honestly probably for good reason. I remember in lecture 2, Erica and Daria talked about the history of Bitcoin and blockchain. And if you remember, it was not an easy history. There was a lot of failures, a lot of mistakes, and a lot of hacks. And so one of not just hacks and attacks, but just a lot of maybe not the best use cases. So you all have learned throughout the course of this webinar series that Bitcoin itself is not inherently bad. In fact, it's not inherently anything. It's just this piece of technology. We as humans choose what to use it for and how to use it. And so this on the top left of the slide here, it's I have Silk Road, an anonymous marketplace listed. And if you remember, Silk Road was this, completely online marketplace. I think you could only find it by going on the dark web. And basically, you used Bitcoin to transact on it. So you would find items you wanted, and you would pay the merchant or vendor in Bitcoin, and then you would receive your item. And so I kind of took advantage of the feature of Bitcoin, Bitcoin's feature of anonymity. And so you wouldn't know who you were doing business with, but you would know that the value, the currency would be going through. And so you didn't really care who you're doing business with. And so while yes, there were, rare books or documents that were being sold on the Silk Road. It also had some more suspect items that were for sale. And so eventually it led to it's being shut down, I think recently, and then like the owner got arrested and all that stuff. But basically, a lot of people associated Bitcoin with these very shady dealings that definitely weren't the best for its image. More recently, we have uTorrent in the bottom left here. uTorrent is a BitTorrent client that you can use to use the P2P torrent network and download torrents. And what happened with uTorrent was that it's one of the most popular BitTorrent clients. And what was happening was when people were updating or installing it, the software would install a Bitcoin, mining software that would run in the background. And a lot of users noticed this and complained because they don't recollect, they didn't allow access. They didn't allow the installer to actually install this Bitcoin miner, but then they see this Bitcoin miner running in the background. And that's just added to this idea of Bitcoin being shady. Like, I don't know what the company behind uTorrent was thinking, but I guess they just wanted some extra Bitcoin, to pocket. And so, yeah, they were doing some very shady things to distribute Bitcoin mining software and use the compute power of people without their permission, which is a big no-no. And then in even more recent news, I think this was over the summer, literally a couple of weeks ago, this Twitter, a bunch of accounts on Twitter got hacked. And these were very, very well-known accounts of companies and people who each of them easily had over 1 million followers. And in these hacks, they got access to these accounts, and they sent out this tweet. It was pretty similar to this one. Maybe the Bitcoin address was different, but basically I'll read it out to you. It says, "We're giving back to our community. We support Bitcoin and we believe you should too. All Bitcoin sent to our address below will be sent back to you doubled." And so with this facade of a philanthropic, we're gonna double the amount of Bitcoin you send to this account, and it'll be very good for Bitcoin. The community will come together. And this was tweeted out from Apple, from Elon Musk's account, from Bill Gates' account, from Kim Kardashian West's account. Like all these famous people's accounts were supporting Bitcoin. It was really cool, but it was also really fake and it was a scam. And I think within a couple of minutes, one of these wallet accounts raised like $110,000 worth of Bitcoin. And one of them, there's like over 300 transactions within a couple of minutes. So a lot of people fell for it. And when it was exposed, I mean, this seems very fake to you and me, but a lot of people fell for it, obviously. When it was exposed to being a hack, again, did nothing for Bitcoin's reputation. I think people are calling this the biggest like social media hack ever. There were so many accounts that were affected. They literally chose the accounts with the most number of followers, and it was really fun. It kind of looked legit. I did a double take because I saw like this really cool graphic of Elon Musk like looking off into the distance and like Bitcoin's logo right next to it. So I was like, wait, what, really? But obviously, be careful for these scams. But Bitcoin's reputation to this day is not very good. And so all of this is to say, all of the points that Andrew brought up, all the points that I brought up, all of this was to say that the transition to this, blockchain centric world that Janice proposed to us, and not even like a blockchain centric world, but even a world where blockchain is mainstream, right? This transition is going to be so tough and it's going to be so hard to bring about. Not only because of these shortcomings of blockchain and Bitcoin, and not only because usability and stuff, but I think in large part to the regulations, right? So, I'm not a legislator. I don't know a lot about laws and why these things are in place, but I think one perspective you could take is that these traditional systems that we deal with today, in our system today, it's like the banks and like the government who have power. We're entrusting the banks. We don't really own our money. It's like, oh, I have this amount of money, and then when I go to the bank, they'll give it to me. And so it's kind of the banks and the government and kind of holding all that power, and they derive that power because they hold the entire monetary supply. And so it's in their favor for people to use these traditional systems and to continue using these systems. So whenever something like Bitcoin and blockchain comes around that would take the money from them and put it into this decentralized this decentralized network where the traditional systems don't have the money and now no longer the power, I don't think they're going to give that up easily. And I think, in fact, they're going to resist that change and resist that transition to a world where blockchain and Bitcoin is mainstream. And so, if the goal is to, if we could go back just real quick, if the goal is to replace these traditional systems and to bring about this, blockchain centric world, like I said, it's not going to be easy because we'll be kind of, butting heads with the traditional systems, traditional laws who currently have the power to enforce regulations, enforce laws, and stop the development, production of these changes coming to place. And so, what might have to happen is, we might have to find a way to somehow cooperate and coexist with the existing systems, with what's in place currently, and then maybe make the leap to this world where we can use blockchain on the daily. And so go to the next slide. This transition, like I said, will be hard, but I think it's going to happen, and we can see from current events that it's already happening. Like I said earlier, PayPal opened up crypto services to many, many millions of eligible account holders. China recently started to develop a digital currency, and they've already the Chinese population has already used this digital currency for over 3 million transactions worth over 1 billion yuan so far. And these are all recent current events to today's date. And so that's also really cool. We see this, one of the biggest nations in the world converting their currency to a digital currency and using it so that and their people using it. And also we see the rise of CBDCs. CBDCs are central bank digital currencies. And so the first nationwide CBDC was recently launched and initialized by the Bahamas. And so we see that all the citizens can have access to this digital currency that their government had helped to develop and helped to kind of promote. And so we see CBDCs also, there have been news about many other nations looking into developing CBDCs, even the US is looking into it. And so the main point I want to get across with this slide is, like I said, the blockchain space is still very young. There's still a lot that needs to be done. But in my opinion, that's just a motivation for you all to kind of join right now and get in early on this journey. And just maybe in all of our lifetimes, we'll be able to kind of experience what Janice told us, or maybe even experience a world where blockchain is more mainstream. And so I'll let Erica take it away and show you guys how you guys can get involved.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Erica. Really excited about this section because, we've spent all these weeks talking to you guys about understanding the knowledge you need to, kick butt in the blockchain space. But now it's up to you to take all that stuff in your noggin and figure out how to apply it into a very, very interesting ecosystem that isn't like a lot of opportunities out there. So without further ado. First off, I want you all to be educated consumers when you're trying to navigate how to be involved in this space. The blockchain space is ever changing. New updates all the time. People have the entrepreneurial spirit and are trying to always innovate. There's a couple ways that you can stay educated, stay up to date, and meet with people. So for starters, you can, first off, the two events I want to highlight are sort of a worldwide phenomenon, really powerful also in San Francisco, New York, is Crypto Mondays and BitDevs meetings. And those are opportunities for like-minded people who are interested in the blockchain space to talk with one another, connect in a sort of Socratic seminar style method. Those of you in high school or college who've experienced a Socratic seminar sort of based on the teachings of Socrates, where people learn from one another and it's like a discussion where people bounce ideas off of each other. That's something really, really valued in the blockchain space when it comes to people borrowing ideas from one another to accelerate their learning. Another place you can stay educated and up to date is simply through our content on our YouTube channel, on our website. Blockchain at Berkeley, offers an edX course and a blockchain for developers course, which we're constantly innovating and trying to figure out how to stay up to date and what toolkits and frameworks are necessary for your best success in the space. Another way I'd really recommend staying involved is looking into open source platforms and figuring out how to contribute there. When I was looking into how to contribute to open source opportunities, many results came, and it seems like there's a real demand for this. So a couple of resources I'd recommend is Mooniversity, which was founded by Justin Moon. And it's this guy who you have to pay for it, but he sort of teaches you a lot about how to contribute to an open source Bitcoin initiative. There's also this great little booklet called Really Friendly Git Intro by Tracy Osborne. Really cute, really feasible to navigate and read. And it sort of teaches you about like GitHub etiquette and how to contribute to open source collaborative initiatives without really treading on anyone's toes, and also like being like appropriate with like your superiors who know a little bit more about the platform. And then these are some like examples of open source platforms. So if I'm correct, I think that's Quorum, that's Bitcoin Core, and then it might be Hyperledger, but I'm not sure. But yeah, thank you so much. On to the next one. And another way that I would really recommend getting involved is just observing the blockchain ecosystem and how much of like seeing what was going on. You know, there's like opportunities within every like confine of the space, and that it can get overwhelming. But the most important thing to remember is to just look inside of yourself and be like, what interests me? What am I passionate about? What's a Wikipedia rabbit hole that I can't stop going down on and like navigating? And so once you do that, then you realize you'll start reading about it more. And now that you have this understanding of how blockchain technology works and how Bitcoin works, you'll ask yourself, does this need that use case here? And then you'll look into it, and you'll be amazed. Like, yeah, like you can contribute to all these spaces however you want. And you just have to like research it and put your mind to it and try to connect to people in the space. That's definitely a way, you know, just keeping up to date. Additionally, if you are not necessarily interested in like doing coding or like contributing to a GitHub, there's other ways that you can assist the blockchain space. You know, you can work in design, or you can alter graphics, or you can take a public policy approach. I mean, so much of the blockchain space is interdisciplinary, and if you want to contribute to it, but you don't want to just sit behind a computer, there's definitely other ways that you can make your voice heard through your interests. So for example, government codification of blockchain technology, that's a public policy background, or making sure that the user interface of applications, with PayPal's crypto option really being a great example of how appealing it looks. That's a great opportunity for someone who has like more artistic skills. Yeah. The last thing one other thing I wanted to highlight was just the like plethora of communities available out there. So, you know, there's Reddit, and that's a really busy community where people are posting every day, interacting with one another. You can really make friends through there. And crypto Twitter, that's also like, there's so many Twitter threads that will just come up, and like you'll learn so much that you won't learn just from a website. For example, a lot of internship opportunities come up from there with, you know, the CEOs of these companies, very interactive with the public, talking and saying, we want you, we want university students, and just highlighting a lot of videos and making this technology information accessible. And you don't even have to like look for it on the web through like dozens of Google searches. It's just in your phone, and you can almost really intimately interact with these like big tech executives. Another example is This is my favorite example, and this is actually why I applied to blockchain at Berkeley. So there's this like psychological like think tank institution in Big Sur, California, and they created this like digital rain like blockchain for humanity conference in 2018, and so it was called like blockchain cryptocurrency for humanity, like digital rain, blah blah blah. But you know, it's this opportunity for people of all different backgrounds, like literally psychologists or like wellness therapists, to learn about like how a new technology altered the world. And that's in somewhere as random as like sort of like northern, like some like not a big city. And there's so many opportunities like that, like all over the country, if you just like look into it and get a group of like-minded people together. There's also like little like mini societies, like the Silicon Valley Blockchain Society, and just so many like groups of like-minded people out there. And it all comes down to these like meetups of people interested in something and willing to talk about it. Because that's, and now with Zoom, it's even easier than ever to get people to come to a space. You know, there could have been setbacks before, like lack of transportation or lack of a metropolitan space to confine yourself in. But now, like when there's a will, there's a way. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more efforts into conversations with people. Another thing is to just continue your education through courses. This was a recent CoinDesk ranking of universities with, you know, what they really have to offer in terms of blockchain knowledge. And I've highlighted a couple of classes here. Harvard Law School has a blockchain, fintech, and the law initiative. And lawyers who understand blockchain laws are immensely in demand. But even if you aren't interested in going to law school, that's incredibly interesting information. Or if you want to take a class on understanding how blockchain interacts with the business world, that's totally an option for you too. Or our blockchain for developers course. Or, you know, you could go on YouTube and watch as many videos as you want and like create a little playlist for yourself of what's out there. Because, you know, there's plenty of people who will try to explain blockchain, but it'll take your critical thinking skills to really evaluate and decide if it's effective. And it'll be an iterative process the more you learn about the technology and really understand what information there is accurate or not. And that'll help your journey of being a more educated blockchain consumer in the space, and then you'll be able to contribute more effectively. Thank you from the bottom of my heart from me and from all three of my fellow web leads. If you guys want to say something, let me know.
Yeah, just I think first and foremost, thank you to all of you all who stayed with us these past 10 weeks and whether you came to the live lectures or watched the recordings or interact with us on Facebook. Thank you all for being a great audience, asking great questions and being there for us. I think we also need to thank our co-president Liam, who has been here every single time and you know, been working the logistics of Zoom. He's handled, you know, getting together the wonderful speakers during our industry talks. So the people that you all get to meet with and interact with on Tuesdays, he's one who has handled that. So big thanks to him. Also big thanks to all of the lecturers who paired up with the education department. So yeah, big thanks to the education department, also the rest of BAB, all those lecturers who were able to create content and deliver. Anything else you guys want to add?
Yeah, I'll chime in here as well. I mean, I just want to bring up, this was our first time doing a webinar. Like Stan said, it was a big logistical effort as well, but it was pretty exciting on our end, and we hope that you guys all had a great time as well. Hopefully it was exciting for you too. It feels sort of in the spirit of the crypto community to gather like this. We're all across the world, decentralized, one might say, and we're getting together, learning about blockchain. And I don't know, I've had a great time teaching. Even in this format, it's had its own pros. So I just want to thank everyone who's kept on coming and gave us a reason to keep going.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, feel free to keep in contact with us. I just sent it in the Zoom chat. And yeah, feel free to always check out our content on our Medium pages, on our website, and we'll still have the Facebook group active. So if you have any ideas or just any questions, just feel free to use that and we'll be there. But that's all from us. Really sad this is our last lecture, but hopefully everyone learned something, and hopefully we'll see you in the blockchain space soon.